All right, so you sent me a bunch of articles about backup strategies,
Yeah.
and clearly this is something that's important to you.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that you don't think about until you really need it, right? And
Right.
it's too late then.
Yeah, you don't want to be scrambling at the last minute when something bad happens.
Exactly. And it's something that's evolved a lot too. Like, even in the last few years, the technology has changed so much and the threats have changed.
You So much of what we used to do is just completely obsolete.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember having stacks and stacks of external hard drive
Oh, totally. Me too.
and, thinking that was the solution.
Oh, yeah. I felt so secure with my, fireproof safe and my external hard drive.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Yeah.
good.
But that's just not enough anymore.
No, not at all. Not with the way things are going.
So let's sort of take it back to basics
Okay.
and talk about the 3-2-1 rule.
Yeah, the classic 3-2-1.
Because that's kind of the foundation.
It is a good starting point.
Yeah.
So 3-2-1, just to make sure everyone's on the same page, means 3 copies of your data, 2 different types of storage media, and 1 copy offsite.
Okay, so 3 copies, that seems pretty straightforward. You have your main copy and then 2 backups.
Exactly. So you've got the one that you're working on, your computer, whatever, and then you've got your 2 backups.
And then the 2 different types of storage media.
Yeah, so this is where you're thinking about, okay, I don't want to just have 2 external hard drives.
Right.
Because what happens if an external hard drive fails, right?
Right, or they both fail.
Or they both fail, exactly. So you want to think about different types of storage. So that could be an external hard drive and cloud storage, or it could be, a NAS device and a tape drive.
Oh, wow, a tape drive. I haven't heard of that one in a while.
Yeah, those are coming back, actually. They're really good for archiving.
Interesting.
But yeah, so the idea is to diversify your storage so that you're not vulnerable to a single point of failure.
Okay, and then the offsite copy?
Yeah, this is where things get interesting because the definition of offsite has evolved a lot over the years.
Yeah.
I remember reading in one of these articles that one of the founders of Backblaze, way back in the day, used to mail a hard drive to his brother
Wow, really?
as his offsite backup.
So just like putting it in the mail.
Yeah, literally putting it in a package and mailing it to his brother.
That's amazing.
Which is kind of hilarious to think about now, but that was the best they could do back then.
I mean, that's dedication, though.
Yeah, totally. And it highlights how important that offsite copy is because what if something happens to your home or your office, right? Like a fire or a flood or even just a burglary.
Yeah, all your data's gone.
Exactly. You need that offsite copy to be able to recover from something like that.
So now we think about offsite as being the cloud.
Yeah, exactly. Cloud storage has made it so much easier to have that offsite copy, but it also introduces new challenges.
Because what if the cloud provider has an outage or there's some kind of security breach?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, we tend to think of the cloud as being this, infallible thing, but it's not.
Right.
Like any technology, it can fail and it can be vulnerable to attacks.
So even that offsite copy in the cloud is not as safe as we might think.
Exactly. And that's why we're seeing these new backup rules emerge, like the 3-2-1-1-0 and the 4-3-2.
Okay, yeah, those are the ones I wanted to get into because
Yeah.
those seem to be addressing these new challenges.
Exactly. They're taking the basic principles of 3-2-1 and adapting them to this new reality where ransomware is a huge threat and cloud vulnerabilities are a real concern.
So can we break down what those additional numbers mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with 3-2-1-1-0. So we already know what the 3-2-1 stands for, but those extra ones are really important.
Okay.
So that first extra one, that stands for an immutable copy.
Immutable, so that means it can't be changed.
Right, exactly. It's like a time-locked safe for your data. Once data is in an immutable copy, it can't be changed or deleted even by someone with access to your account.
Oh, wow. So even if a hacker got into your cloud account, they couldn't encrypt your backups.
Exactly. That's the beauty of immutability. It's a huge defense against ransomware attacks.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, ransomware is just such a scary thought.
It is. It's a game changer. And it's not just targeting businesses anymore. It's individuals, too.
Right. Anyone can be a victim.
Exactly. So having that immutable copy is like having an insurance policy against that kind of attack.
That's a really good way to think about it.
Oh.
Okay, so that's the first extra one. What about the 0?
Aha, yes, the 0. That stands for 0 errors in your backup testing process.
Oh, so it's not enough to just have the backups. You have to make sure they actually work.
Exactly. You've got to test them regularly to make sure that they're complete, that you can access them, and that they actually contain what you think they do.
I have to admit, I've been guilty of not testing my backups as often as I should.
Yeah, it's a common mistake. We all do it, but it's a big risk. because what if you need to restore from a backup and it doesn't work?
Then you're in trouble.
Then you're really in trouble. So the 0 is a reminder to make testing a regular part of your backup routine.
Like a fire drill for your data.
Exactly, a fire drill for your data. I love that.
Okay, so that's 32110. What about 432?
So 432 takes the redundancy concept even further. You've got 4 copies of your data in 3 different locations with 2 of them off-site.
Whoa, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely more of an enterprise-level strategy for businesses with mission-critical data, where any downtime is incredibly costly.
So probably not necessary for the average person.
Probably not, but it illustrates the principle: the more important your data is, the more layers of protection you want to have in place.
It's like a belt and suspenders approach.
Exactly. You're not taking any chances.
But I think even for the average person, the 32110 rule is a good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good framework to work with, and then you can always adjust it based on your own needs and risk tolerance.
So the key takeaway here is that the old 321 rule is still relevant, but we need to adapt it to the modern world.
Exactly. Cloud storage has changed the game, and we need to make sure our backup strategies are keeping up.
Okay, so we've talked about the principles, the rules.
All right,
I'm ready to get practical.
Let's do it.
What are some tools and techniques that can help me actually implement these strategies?
Well, the good news is that there are more options than ever before.
Yeah, that's true.
But that can also be a bit overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, exactly. It's like information overload.
It really is. So a good place to start is with your cloud storage provider.
Okay.
Do they offer things like object lock?
Oh, yeah, object lock. We talked about that earlier.
We did, but it's worth repeating because it's so important.
Yeah, can you remind me what that is?
Sure. So object lock is essentially a way to make your data immutable for a set period of time.
Okay.
So even if your account is compromised, a hacker can't delete or encrypt those backups.
So even if they get in, they can't hold your data hostage.
Exactly. It's like an extra layer of protection specifically designed to combat ransomware.
That's great. I'm definitely going to check if my provider offers that.
Yeah, definitely worth looking into.
What about using multiple cloud providers? Is that a bit overkill?
That's a good question, and there's no easy answer.
Okay.
Some people argue that it's an admission that your primary provider isn't secure enough.
Right.
But the reality is that even the biggest tech giants have outages and vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've all experienced those frustrating moments when a service we rely on suddenly goes down.
Exactly. So spreading your backups across multiple providers just adds another layer of resilience.
Okay, so it's like, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Spread the risk.
So even if it's just for one of those extra copies, having a backup with a different provider could be a smart move.
Yeah, it's definitely something to consider.
What other practical tips did you get from these articles?
One that really stood out to me was the importance of actually testing your restores.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's one thing to have backups. It's another to know that they'll work when you need them.
It's like having a fire extinguisher, but never checking if it's charged or knowing how to use it.
You don't want to wait until there's a fire to realize that you don't know how to operate the extinguisher.
Right.
The same applies to backups.
So how often should you test them?
Well, it depends on how often your data changes and your tolerance for risk.
Okay.
Some people do it monthly, others quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to make it a regular part of your routine.
Like a fire drill for your data.
Exactly. I love that analogy.
Okay, so testing restores. What else?
Documentation.
Oh, yeah. Documentation. That's always important.
Yeah.
But it can be a bit tedious.
It can be, but trust me, it's worth it.
Okay, why is that?
Because imagine something happens and you're not around to guide the recovery process.
Okay.
Someone else has to try to piece together your backup system without any guidance. It could be a nightmare.
Yeah, that's true.
So having clear documentation ensures that even if you're unavailable, someone else can step in and know exactly what to do.
That's like an instruction manual for your data.
Exactly. And, it doesn't have to be super complicated.
Okay.
Just a simple document outlining your backup procedures, storage locations, and recovery steps can save a lot of headaches down the road.
That makes sense. Okay. So testing, documentation, anything else?
One more thing that I found really interesting was the idea that backups aren't just about disaster recovery anymore.
Oh, yeah.
They're becoming a valuable asset for data analysis and decision-making.
Right. One of the articles mentioned how some companies are using their backups to identify trends and gain insights into their business operation.
Exactly. It's a whole new way of thinking about backups.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a safety net, they can actually be a source of valuable information that can help you improve your business.
That's pretty cool. So it's not just about protecting data, it's about leveraging it.
Precisely. And this brings up another interesting point from the article's data seeding.
Data seeding. Remind me what that is again.
Sure. So data seeding is basically a technique for speeding up disaster recovery.
Okay.
You create a replica of your production environment, your live systems,
Right.
in a separate location, and then you regularly update it with your backup data.
So if your primary systems go down, you can quickly switch over to this replica.
Exactly, minimizing downtime.
It's like having a spare tire already inflated and ready to go in case you get a flat.
Perfect analogy. I love it.
So it's all about being prepared.
Absolutely minimizing risk, maximizing resilience.
Okay, so we've talked about tools, techniques. Now, what about security?
Ah, yes, security. That's crucial.
Especially with ransomware being such a big threat.
Exactly. You need to make sure that your backups are protected from unauthorized access and tampering.
Okay, so what are some ways to do that?
Well, the articles highlighted several key techniques,
Okay.
like encryption access controls and multi-factor authentication.
Can you break those down for me?
Sure. So encryption is basically scrambling your data so that only someone with the right key can read it.
Okay.
It's like putting a lock on your backups.
Got it.
Access controls limit who can see, edit, or delete your backups.
So it's like controlling who has the keys to those locks.
Exactly. And then multi-factor authentication adds an extra layer of security by requiring you to provide multiple forms of identification to access your backups.
Okay, so even if someone steals your password, they still can't get in without that second factor.
Right, like a code sent to your phone or a fingerprint scan.
So it's like having a deadbolt and a security system for your data.
Exactly. And these security measures are crucial both for backups you store locally and those you store in the cloud.
Right. It's easy to assume that the cloud provider is taking care of everything.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's our responsibility to protect our data.
It is. And with the growing sophistication of cyber threats, we can't afford to be complacent.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But, as we've been talking about all these strategies and tools, I keep thinking about how much the conversation around backups has evolved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's not just about fearing data loss anymore.
It's not.
It's about embracing the possibilities that data protection opens up.
Exactly. We've moved beyond simply fearing data loss and into an era where we can leverage backups to drive insights, fuel innovation, and even make better business decisions.
It's a fundamental shift in perspective.
It really is, and that's what I find so exciting about this field.
Yeah, me too.
Backups are no longer just about safeguarding against what might go wrong. They're about empowering us to do more with our data,
That's a great point.
to make better decisions to drive innovation.
It's like backups have become a secret weapon
I love that analogy.
for businesses and individuals alike.
It really captures the essence of what we've been discussing.
Yeah.
But it also highlights why it's so crucial to get the fundamentals right.
Yeah.
Because if your data isn't protected, readily accessible, and well organized, you can't tap into those opportunities.
You're right. It's like having a treasure chest full of valuable gems, but no key to open it.
Perfect analogy.
Or worse, the chest is so poorly constructed that it falls apart when you try to move it.
Exactly. It emphasizes the importance of choosing the right tools and techniques for your specific needs.
Right.
A backup strategy that works for a large enterprise might be overkill for an individual.
Right, and vice versa.
Exactly. So how do you find that sweet spot?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, start by asking yourself some fundamental questions. What data is most important to you? How much downtime can you tolerate? What are your budget constraints?
Okay.
Once you have a clear understanding of your needs and priorities, you can start evaluating different solutions.
So don't just jump into the most complex solution or the cheapest option.
Right. Take the time to understand your unique situation.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely. There are tons of resources available online, and many backup providers offer excellent customer support.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but don't let that paralyze you into inaction.
Exactly. Take action.
Even small steps can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Enable object lock on your cloud storage schedule or restore test. Create a simple spreadsheet to inventory your critical data.
Okay.
These are all simple actions that can significantly strengthen your data protection posture.
So it's really about taking ownership of your data
It is.
and being proactive about protecting what matters most.
Exactly. Shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive approach.
I love that.
It's about recognizing that data is a valuable asset, and like any asset, it needs to be managed and protected.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It has been a lot of great information.
We've gone from the basics of the 3-2-1 rule
Right.
to exploring these really in-depth concepts.
We have immutable backups, cloud replication data seeding.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
It has, and, we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, what's the one thing we want people to walk away with?
Exactly. And for me, I think it's how much the role of backups has changed. Like, it's not just about disaster recovery anymore.
Yeah, that's been a big theme throughout this whole deep dive.
It has, right? It's about using backups as a strategic asset.
Right, using them to drive insights fuel innovation.
Exactly. It's a whole new way of thinking about backups.
It really is. I'm starting to see them less as a necessary evil and more like a secret weapon.
I love that. A secret weapon.
Yeah, a source of competitive advantage.
Exactly. And it highlights why it's so important to get the fundamentals right.
Right.
Because if your data isn't protected, readily accessible and well organized,
You can't really use
you
it.
can't tap into those opportunities.
It's like having a treasure chest full of valuable gems,
Yeah.
but no key to open it.
Where the chest is so poorly constructed that it falls apart when you try to move it.
Right, exactly. So choosing the right tools and techniques is crucial.
It is. And, a backup strategy that works for a large enterprise might be overkill for an individual.
Right, and vice versa.
Exactly. So how do you find that sweet spot?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is, but, start by asking yourself some fundamental questions.
Okay.
What data is most important to you? How much downtime can you tolerate? What are your budget constraints?
Right. Figure out what your needs are.
Exactly. Once you have a clear understanding of your needs and priorities, then you can start evaluating different solutions.
So don't just jump into the most complex solution
Right.
or the cheapest option.
Don't just go for the quick fix.
Take your time, understand your unique situation.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources out there.
There are tons of resources available online, and many backup providers offer excellent customer support.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's okay to feel overwhelmed,
Yeah, we've all been there.
but don't let that paralyze you into inaction.
Exactly. Take action.
Do something.
Even small steps can make a big difference.
Like, what are some examples?
Well, enable object lock on your cloud storage.
Okay.
Schedule a restore test. Create a simple spreadsheet to inventory your critical data.
Those are all good manageable steps.
They are, and they can make a big difference.
You know what I'm realizing is that data backup and recovery isn't just about technology.
It's not.
It's about mindset.
It is.
It's about taking ownership of your data
Exactly.
and being proactive about protecting it.
Shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive approach.
love that.
It's about recognizing that data is a valuable asset, and like any asset, it needs to be managed and protected.
So well said. This deep dive has been incredible.
It has.
We've learned so much.
We really have, from the basics of 3-2-1.
Yeah, to all these advanced concepts.
Immutable backups, cloud replication, data seeding.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
We have, but I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. If you had to sum up everything we've discussed into one key takeaway, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me think about that for a second. I think the one thing I would say is take action.
Take action.
Don't let all this information just sit in your head. Pick one thing you can do this week to improve your backup strategy and do it.
I love that it's so simple, but so powerful.
It is. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Small steps consistently.
Exactly. Small steps taken consistently can make a huge difference in protecting your valuable data.
Well said. That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of data backup strategies.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listener, we hope you found this deep dive informative and empowering. And remember, if you want to explore any of these topics further, we've included links to all the articles we used in the show notes. Happy backing up.